Welcome to the first webinar of 2026 hosted by Certified Lights. In this webinar, I'll cover top mistakes to avoid in 2026. These are going to be mistakes that I see a lot of installers fall into, kind of traps that I see a lot of installers fall into throughout the year. Some being mindset issues, but also some kind of just procedural issues that I notice a lot of installers make as they're a little bit less experienced or just getting into the business. Maybe last year was their first year, um, and kind of some beginner mistakes that wouldn't be super easy to know how to fix without these kinds of webinars and the support of companies like Certified Lights, of course. Now, before I begin, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mateo Young. I am the Director of Business Development for Certified Lights. So if you have any questions about our partnership program or anything that we can do to help you grow or scale or start this business even, feel free to reach out to me. I'll give my contact info out at the end. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, like I said, I'll first cover kind of the common mistakes that I see installers make throughout the year leading up to the season, why they happen, and how they affect your margins, your profitability. Um, and then, of course, I'll go over how to avoid those kinds of traps, those kinds of mistakes, both through our support, but also kind of what you can do on your own to avoid kind of falling into those traps. Of course, if you're wanting to scale and kind of grow the company in a process-oriented fashion. And then last but not least, because I'll cover so much information, so many different tips and suggestions, I'll also cover our certified partnership program. That will I'll talk a little bit more about that later, of course, but essentially, that's our way of helping you stay proactive, be supported with anything that you might need. Some people need help with marketing, some people need help with sales, some people need help with hiring people or pricing out their products or anything else. So that's kind of where we come in and help you with really whatever you need. Certified Lights is a seven-figure Christmas light installer. We run our company in Dallas, Texas, and really in the DFW Metroplex. And this will be our 20th season. 2026 will be our 20th season, which is kind of crazy. But with that said, we've gotten a lot of experience throughout the year, both with commercial sales and residential projects. So we really know what we're doing. We've also done projects across the country, so we know kind of different markets, and we have partners in lots of different states, most of the states really. So we're very familiar with kind of requirements that go into being in different territories. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So common mistakes. The first one I'll start with is low product stock mid-season. So this is one that is very, very common and it directly impacts your bottom line. What the mistake is, what the trap is really is not ordering enough product or not having enough stock, just as that kind of header says. This happens because product could be expensive. You maybe underestimate the demand that you're going to see for the season, and you end up under ordering product. One, to save money, but also to be able to put that money into other aspects of the business like marketing. So instead of maybe if you think you're going to install 50 homes worth of Christmas lights, you might order half of that, and then you end up seeing a lot more demand. So then you're having to order more mid-season. One, that's gonna delay installs. Um, the date that you tell your customer that you're gonna go out and install on is gonna get pushed back, so they're not gonna be as pleased with that. You might seem a little bit less professional if you don't go about handling that correctly. It's also gonna decrease your hourly revenue. If you're gonna need to order product kind of with expedited shipping, very fast shipping, it's gonna cost you more, of course, so it's gonna decrease the revenue that you see per project. Um, and at the end of the day, it's just gonna lower your margins. So this is a very common thing that I've seen, and actually I had a few installers leading up to this webinar contact me because they kind of fell into this trap. this past season, 2025. Partly because it was kind of their first year. They didn't really know what to expect as far as the demand that they could see in their market. But also they wanted to prioritize spending on marketing. So they spent a lot of money on marketing, and then the marketing worked, but they didn't have enough product to actually fulfill those sales that they were making. So then they had to push back installs, pay more for shipping, pay more for expedited shipping, and even pay more for products. Some companies charge a bit more sometimes for ordering mid-season because the demand is so high, so the supply goes down, and then of course those economic factors come in. So that's the top mistake that I see installers make. Second one is starting marketing too late. A lot of people think that because this is a seasonal business, of course, it's Christmas lighting, it's Diwali lighting, it's kind of holiday, end of year holiday lighting. Um, the marketing should only begin in October or even November. And that is a big trap that you can fall into, especially if you're not being proactive about the types of customers that you want to land. If you start marketing too late, you're only going to kind of attract the clients that are going to think about installing Christmas lights too late. So these are going to be the people that don't want to pay a lot, that are kind of looking for something fast, something that's not going to last them too long, and kind of just something to put up lights, someone to put up lights for them. They're not going to be looking for kind of that turnkey wow service, wow decorations. The people that are going to be paying more, your six-figure projects, your five-figure projects, whether it's for residential or commercial, are going to have their contracts closed by August, probably. For example, we start our installations October 1st. So what that means is by October 1st, or pretty much by August 1st, we already know which customers are going to be on our October 1st schedule. We're not closing contracts mid-October and trying to market and kind of grow the business then. We grow the business as summer is ending, as fall is beginning, as the first kind of cold front hits. That's when clients that are gonna be more proactive about the lights that they want to have on their house or their commercial property. That's when you want to reach out to them because that's when they want to close those contracts. They also want to be proactive, especially if they're spending 10,000, 40,000, 100,000 on Christmas lights. They want to have those for a few months, not just a few weeks. So they're going to want to spend that amount of money on a professional company that's also looking and kind of knows what the seasonal calendar should be for those kinds of higher end customers. So if you start marketing too late, again, you're only going to attract kind of those lower quality leads. It also slows year over year growth because you're going to attract those lower leads and you're going to want to fill the calendar. You're only going to really, you're going to in some cases be forced to accept those lower quality leads. So you're going to just overall make less money per job. And then of course that leads to slower year over year growth because you didn't really have very high paying jobs because you start marketing too late. And then also your marketing ROI takes a big hit. So if you spend $5,000 in November and December trying to market your holiday installation business and you attract those lower quality leads, you end up having to take them because you need things on the schedule, just like I said. Um, One, your revenue per job is not going to be very high. Your total revenue is not going to be very high. And then your returns on the $5,000 that you spend on marketing is not going to be very good because you landed only low quality jobs. But if you spend $5,000 in August, maybe even in October, um, then you're going to have a higher chance of landing kind of bigger jobs, landing more higher quality leads, just to kind of be frank about it. The higher income neighborhoods, higher income commercial properties. And then of course that's not to say that you should market only during the let's say beginning of quarter three, middle of quarter three, but I'll get into kind of the suggestions that I have for this one as well. And then the third top common mistake is losing or forgetting install procedures. This is a huge one because you might think, oh, quarter one, or I'm sorry, last season, 2025, went well. I kind of got the hang of what I was doing, and I'll remember how to wrap a tree next year. I'll remember how to wrap a bush properly next year. So you kind of put that in the back of your head, and maybe you do focus on marketing earlier, and you kind of focus on one aspect of these on one way to not make these mistakes throughout the year. But then you forget about the actual job. You forget about actually installing the lights that you're going to be paying, that you're going to be paid tens of thousands of dollars to make. So then that turns out that causes your first jobs of the year, of the season, to be lower quality. You're going to kind of be relearning on the job. And not only are you going to be relearning yourself and relearning, and are your field managers going to be relearning, but you're also going to be training new installers that are going to be working for you, assuming that you're scaling and that you're growing. So you're going to be relearning and you're going to be training new installers, which of course costs you a lot of money because it's going to take more time. And time, as we know, is money, especially in this business. So um, this is also going to lead to reservice times. So if your jobs are lower quality, your reservice rates are going to be higher, causing your per job hourly revenue to be much lower, of course, because you're going to be out on that property for the same amount, for a longer amount of time for the same amount of money. So those are kind of the three common mistakes. Of course, there's a few more, but these are the top big ones that I see installers make. I saw plenty of people make these mistakes last year, partly because they weren't our partners. The people that came to us, or at least came to me over the last few weeks, wanting to sign up for our partnership program, is because they saw things that they could be improving, and through our service and kind of through the processes that we give out for free, they see the growth, the kind of mistakes that they could be avoiding, the growth that they could be seeing, and the processes, frankly, that they could be implementing to avoid these. So that's a great segue into kind of how to avoid these mistakes. So the first one is low product stock mid-season. Instead of under ordering to kind of have more money for marketing or have more money to pay your staff or pay for vehicles, I would recommend my first and best recommendation for this is to leverage our product advancement program. This product advancement program essentially allows you to solve this problem out of the gate. We essentially front you X amount of product. You say, hey, I have a goal to install 50 homes this year, but I don't want to spend the $20,000 on product before I get the jobs because I want to spend those $20,000 on marketing or $10,000 on marketing or whatever that figure might be. And we'll do that. We'll advance X thousand dollars worth of product, X number of homes worth of product, zero down, 0% interest. Really, all you have to do is pay shipping, and then you have that product in stock. So as soon as you start selling jobs, you can begin October 1st installs, and you can start seeing cash flow without ever having to pay for product at the beginning and kind of having to delay the schedule waiting for product to come in. Um, the second one, and then the last point I'll make on the product advancement program is that the payments start at the beginning of November. So it's really very much well into the season that you start making payments. So by that point, you should have already installed most, if not all, of your projects. So you have a decent amount of cash flow coming in, and then you're able to pay for that product without ever going into the red. And then, of course, anything that you don't use, you can just ship back to us, pay for the shipping, and you don't have to pay for the product. And because it's a zero interest, essentially loan of that product at the beginning, if you don't use it, then you don't have to pay for any of that product if you send it back to us new. And that way, you don't have to pay for $10,000 worth of product up front before the season, before you start seeing cash flow and just kind of start the season off in the red. You can start the season off in the green, essentially, if you start selling jobs and then pay for the product later. The second recommendation is take advantage of preseason sales. So a lot of distributors, not only us, but a lot of distributors have Christmas in July sale. So that's their strategy to make money during their slow season, our slow season. And that's when a lot of sales come through. So a lot of people might not know that or might not want to be thinking about Christmas when it's July. If you're a lawn care company, if you're a mosquito pest control company or a roofing company, you're not going to be thinking about Christmas in July. You're going to be thinking about your main business. But that's exactly the time when you should be placing at least a decent amount of orders for your product. To be proactive for the season, you can see sales of 20-30% during July for some distributors. So that would be my second recommendation if you're not going to kind of go with us. A lot of other distributors also do those pre-season sales, and that of course benefits you tremendously. And then the third but of course, not least, recommendation is you can save 20% on all orders, every single product that you place with us through our partnership program. So whether you order in July or whether you order middle of November, you can save 20% on every single order, every single product. And that's one way to kind of put a band-aid on the mistake. If you have already made the mistake mid-season and you realize, oh no, I didn't order enough product, you can leverage our partnership program, and instead of kind of overpaying for the shipping and for the product, you can save 20% on the product and just kind of pay for that expedited shipping. Um, Lessening the blow of the mistake. But of course, starting early in the year, leveraging our product advancement program or preseason sales is definitely the way to go for that. For starting marketing too late, what we recommend is essentially just starting early. I mean, of course, it's just starting earlier, but having goals, knowing what kind of contracts you want to land at the stage that your company is in. So if your company is maybe 1, 2 years, 3 years into the business, you might not want to be looking at commercial sales if you don't have the experience to take up those commercial sales. A lot of the commercial contracts require $1 million insurance policies. Some of our commercial clients require $5 million insurance policies. So if you're not at the stage in the com in the in the company in the business where you can meet the requirements of commercial contracts, you need to know that. You need to be realistic about what stage you're in this whole business cycle. So if you are in those earlier stages, you should be focusing on growing your residential client base, and you should be focusing on really getting those processes down for installing these lights, these decorations properly, so that when you do start hitting those 5 to 6 figure commercial projects, you are able to charge higher premium prices because the quality of service that you provide is higher and is premium compared to the competition in your area. So really, that's all to say is to know what phase in the business you are in, and then have the proper goals. So again, if you want to stick with residential and you know you want to target those more affluent zip codes in your area, start marketing to them towards the middle or the end of quarter 3 because that's when they're going to be looking to kind of check that off their list. And if they have house managers, that's when they're going to be looking to check that off their list, especially if it's going to be bigger contracts. For example, excuse me. For example, in the Dallas area, I meet with some customers that have $10 million houses, $20 million houses, and it's often the house managers that are contacting me to go meet them on site to talk about all the decorations that the actual client wants to have, and that ends up being a 40 or $50,000 bid that I send to them, and that's going to be in late August, maybe middle of August, before the cold season even starts. So just kind of know when who you want to target, who you realistically want to target, and who you realistically should be targeting, and then don't start too late. Now, another kind of tip, rule of thumb, your marketing spend, especially early on, should be in the 5 to 10% range. If you have a younger installation company, it should be more towards the 10% range. Even a little bit higher is totally fine if you can see good returns. Now, I'll do a marketing webinar probably in March, maybe April. So I'll kind of do a deep dive on marketing tips. But essentially, a rule of thumb for your marketing spend should be about 10% of what you project your revenue to be for that season. And I always recommend doing kind of a ramping up of your marketing spend. So if you're going to start in early August, I'd recommend ramping up to until mid-October and then kind of plateauing the marketing spend around November. Because again, that's going to be when the lower quality leads are going to be contacting you. So you want to kind of peak your marketing towards the end of quarter three in September and then in October, of course. And before I continue, actually, because there's so much information, I want to remind everyone that there will be a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat here, and I'll get to all of them once we get to the end. And then last but not least, losing how to not forget install procedure, how to not forget practicing those procedures. And that's really um, very simple, actually. And that's practicing installs a few times per year, whether it's on your house or in one of your clients' houses or one of your employees' homes. Um, Set out maybe once a quarter, once every 3 or 4 months. Go out and install Christmas lights on trees, on bushes. And your neighbors might think it's a little bit odd to see Christmas lights up in April or May, but it's going to benefit you in the long run for your business. Um, Another one is leveraging our partnership program, of course. The partnership program includes an entire training portal online that you can access 24/7, 365, and it includes about 30 hours, 30 to 40 hours of videos that you can use to kind of refresh your mind on how to properly wrap homes and trees and commercial properties, um, how to make sure the tree wraps are tight, how to make sure the bush lighting doesn't look too much like a grid, too much like a net, but it still looks bright and looks really well done. And you can, of course, watch those at any time. So if you want to have a refresher anytime you're scheduled to go out and practice that throughout the year, then that's a great way to kind of make sure that you are um, keeping those processes fresh in your mind, fresh in your installer's mind, and not causing your first installs of the year to be low quality. And all of these are going to hit directly to your bottom line and boost your margins. With these three kind of larger tips, these kind of 9 tips, your margins could be 5 to 10% higher. If you save 20% on all your products year round, that's going to be a 20% less product cost that you see throughout the year. If you save on marketing costs, or even if you spend the same amount of marketing, but you see double the returns because you started earlier in the year versus in November, that's again directly to your bottom line because you're just boosting that revenue. And then if you do practice throughout the year on your home or on your any tree that you see really in wherever you are, a few times throughout the year. That's going to reduce the amount of recalls that you have to make, the amount of reservice time that you have to make, and the amount of time that you spend on properties during the season, which is going to boost your hourly revenue. It's going to increase um, your margins per house, and it's also going to give you more time to install new customers. If you spend 5 hours on one house, that's honestly 4 hours too much, maybe even 3 hours too much, where you could have installed 2 or 3 homes during that time if you don't make the mistakes at the beginning of the year because you practice during and throughout the year. So those are kind of the top mistakes and how to avoid them. why you fall into them and how to not fall into those traps during the year. Staying proactive is a key aspect of this business. A lot of owners fall into the trap of uh, of believing that this is a seasonal business. Of course, it is a seasonal business, but if you're really focused on building this and scaling this to a 6 or 7 figure company like we did, it does take time throughout the year. It's not going to take 30 hours a week to work on it during the year leading up to it. But if you spend 10 hours a month prepping marketing materials or making sure that your crew is refreshed on install techniques or looking out for those sales, then you're just saving yourself money by spending a few hours every month to uh, to be proactive about really scaling your business and making sure your margins are as high as they can be. So then when the next season comes around, you're doubling your sales, and then the next season you're doubling even after that. That's kind of how we did it, and that worked very well. So those are the things that, of course, I recommend doing. Now, I'd love to talk to you about our partnership program as well, because that was so much information. There are ways that we can mentor you, kind of coach you, support you throughout the year to make sure you aren't making those simple mistakes. Now, like I said, we have over 20 years of experience in this market, and then each one of our uh, employees has their own expertise. So we have a field manager that is amazing at what he does. He knows the ins and outs of every little product, every little install tip and trick, what to do when you encounter some kind of unique problem on a roof or on a tree or customers asking for something kind of unique. He knows what to do and you can meet with him directly. We have a product specialist that can guide you to, again, help with those special little unique requests that you might see customers make. And then we also have a network of hundreds of installers that you can bounce ideas off of if you're trying to run some kind of promotion or if you're having some issues in a certain market that we might not be familiar with. We have partners all across the nation, like I said, in most states. So if we don't have an answer for you, I'm sure one of our partners will. So that's one of the benefits, of course, that you get with our partnership program is a 24/7, well, I guess maybe not 24/7, but definitely year-round mentorship and a trusted group of people and support that can help you along the way. With our gold membership, you get free field training. So twice a year, you and a plus one can come to Dallas and get free field training. That's part of the refresher that I was talking about. And if you leverage our partnership program, you can really make the most out of um, making sure that you're up to date on new procedures, new install techniques. We have partners that come to every single one of our trainings, and they've been doing that for 4 to 5 years because there's always something new to learn. And if it's, again, if it's not from us, it's from someone else in the training, another partner in the training that is coming to share their techniques or the things that they learned last season. I also already mentioned the video guides, the install tutorials, but you also get a sales scripts, marketing templates. You get pictures that you can use and kind of claim as your work for when you're running your marketing campaigns. If you're a gold member, you also get 4 30-minute one-on-one calls with anyone on our staff per month. So if you're wanting to meet once a week for the rest of the year with us to make sure that you're really, really prepared, you can do that. If you need marketing help, we can meet with you. If you need help with making sure that you're priced correctly in your market, given your experience and given what your competition is charging, we can help with that. If you need help, really with anything, um, we can help. And then last but not least, this is the partnership pricing that we have. But because this is the first webinar of the year, I want to run a little promotion. And for anyone that signs up because of this webinar, you get certain months for free. So the first person to sign up uh, from now until the end of January through this webinar gets 3 months of our partnership program, the gold membership for free. The second person that signs up either today or until the end of January because of this webinar gets 2 months for free. And then the third person and so on gets 1 month for free. So that's just a little push to give you sign up for this membership program, this partnership program. It's really a huge, huge help. We've had partners that have told us that they would be years behind where they are now if they didn't have access to our video tutorials and our support, because it really is very, very valuable. The information and the guidance and the hands-on support, the one-on-one support that we give to all of our partners. So that is the top mistakes, why they happen, how they impact you, and how to avoid them. Um, Here is my contact information. If you have any kind of one-on-one questions that you would like to meet with me about, feel free to email me. Feel free to take a screenshot of this slide. My next webinar is going to be February 13th, again, 4 p.m. It's going to be Friday, just like this webinar. And it's going to be covering scaling your holiday lighting business. So I'll kind of go over more specifics on if you're a year one installer, if you're a year two installer, if you're a fifth year installer, what you can do now and what you can do month to month leading up to the next season to make sure that you're prepared for this scaling, because a lot of people do see a tremendous amount of growth in year two and year three. Their name starts getting out in the community and their demand for their service booms, but they're not prepared to handle a double in client base, or they're not prepared to handle those commercial projects, or they're not prepared to handle those $10 million houses. So that's kind of what that webinar will cover, is how to actually be prepared for when you see that demand boom this coming season. Now, I promised this would be kind of a shorter webinar, so I'm gonna call it there.